Here is another video on controversial cinema. In this video, I will be covering the 1978 rape and revenge horror film I Spit on Your Grave. Do I dare to spit on this movie? Well, initially playing for limited runs in drive-in cinemas in 1978 as Day of the Woman, the film eventually received a wide release in 1980, titled I Spit on Your Grave. The film was lambasted by critics, with Roger Ebert giving it a rare 0 out of 4 stars, and calling it a vile bag of garbage without a shred of artistic distinction, and later the worst film of all time. The film was protested by feminists and accused of glorifying rape. The MPAA tried to prevent the film's producers from using the R rating. After they gave the film an R rating, producer Joseph Sabida added rape scenes, making it an X-rated movie. An agreement was reached where the film removed any references or explicit shots referring to anal rape, and the MPAA restored the original R rating. In an interview with Fangoria, director Miyazaki said in response to the backlash, "Frankly, I'm not concerned whether it receives bad press or not. It doesn't touch me one way or the other whatsoever. If you told me that the public does not like it and the critics like it, then there is something very, very bad about that. Who am I reaching? 300 critics across the United States? Or 2,000 around the world? It's really the public that counts, the 20 million who have seen the film around the globe." The film was banned and or edited in several countries, with Ireland continuing to ban the film to this day. The censored American version of the film was released in Australia in 1982 with an R18 rating. In 1987, the film survived an appeal to ban it and continued to be sold until 1997, when another reclassification caused its ban in the country. In 2004, the full uncut version was awarded an R18, with the Office of Film and Literature Classification justifying this decision by reasoning that castration is not sexual violence, due to their censorship law forbidding the release of films depicting sexual violence as acceptable or justified. In the United Kingdom, the censors refused it a cinema certificate. As a result, the film was released straight to video due to VHS releases not needing age certificates at the time, and was branded a video nasty by the press. It was on the Director of Public Prosecution's list of prosecutable films until 2001, when a heavily cut version that extensively edited the rape scenes was released with an 18 certificate, with 7 minutes and 2 seconds of the film being cut. The film was re-edited in 2011, with only 2 minutes and 54 seconds of cuts, so that only the scenes of rape that focus on Jennifer's nudity have been banned since 2011. But is all this criticism and controversy warranted? Absolutely. In most countries the film has been released in, it's been classified with an 18 certificate, or the equivalent. That would definitely be the absolute minimum age one should be to watch this, though my advice would be to not watch this film at all, but we'll get to this in the next 2 segments. While I believe most of the controversy with A Clockwork Orange to be unwarranted, and I'm glad it was re-released uncut in the UK in 2000, I Spit on Your Grave should have remained banned, and I'm not at all shocked that they had to edit parts of it to get a UK release. Director Miyazaki has defended the film, saying that the violent nature of the film is necessary to tell the story, and described leading actress Camille Keaton as brave for taking on the role. In my video on A Clockwork Orange, I stated that I didn't need to sit through a minute and 20 seconds of a woman being raped to comprehend that she was raped, that being the only area of controversy with that film that I agree with to some extent. I Spit on Your Grave shows Jennifer being raped for more than 20 minutes over the course of 3 individual scenes. Why do we need to sit through 3 extended scenes of Jennifer being raped to realise she was raped? So, it's safe to say that I do agree with the controversy, but what do I think of the film as a whole? Absolute fucking dog shit. I don't have a problem with depictions of violence in film, but I Spit on Your Grave has no merit to its violence. A Clockwork Orange uses violence to comment on dominance and sadism. Taxi Driver, Fight Club, American Psycho and Joker serve as commentaries on how society has impacted the mentalities of their protagonists. Saving Private Ryan uses violence to show not only how barbaric war is, but also to give insight into what the protagonists know they're risking in order to save their titular Private Ryan. Using violence for laughs or satisfaction is also a thing, and it works when the violence is unrealistic, such as in Tom and Jerry and Deadpool, and or when it happens to a character who deserves it. I Spit on Your Grave is violent, but says nothing about violence, nor does it have any underlying layers within the script as a whole, and it couldn't be construed as dark comedy either, because Jennifer does nothing to deserve it. Despite Camille Keaton's committed performance, and the only reason this film is not completely worthless, Jennifer Hills is such a poorly written protagonist, whose only fleshed out trait is that she's seeking revenge on her rapists. The film does briefly explore her being a writer, but it only comes up at the beginning, and when her rapists rip up a manuscript, not even serving any purpose to her revenge plan. Her ways of getting revenge on her rapists are utterly baffling in execution, no pun intended. But most especially in the case of Johnny. She seductively directs him to enter her car, then halfway back to her house, she points a gun at him and orders him to remove her clothes. Johnny says her being raped was her fault because she was wearing revealing clothing. Instead of just killing him right there, she pretends to believe this, and then invites him back to her house, where they have a bath together, and where Jennifer stands naked in the mirror for God knows how long, probably just so the viewer could take in Camille Keaton's nudity. Then she enters the bath and gives him a handjob, before severing his genitals, leading him to bleed to death before dumping his body in the basement. Why did she not shoot him in the forest? The film also has no artistic merit whatsoever. There's no compelling symbolism, no interesting shots or visuals, nothing. It's a film that literally anyone could direct, not that most people would want to though. So, in case you hadn't guessed, I hate this film, and almost everything about it. But how would I write it, if I had to? Well, my first idea stems from director Miyazaki's alleged inspiration for the film, in which he stated he helped a young woman who'd been raped in New York. He said that he, a friend and his daughter were driving by a park when they saw a young woman crawl out of the bushes bloodied and naked. They picked her up, returned her home, and decided to take her to the police rather than the hospital, not wanting the attackers to escape and find further victims. They quickly realised they had made the wrong decision. The officer, who Zaki described as not fit to wear the uniform, delayed taking her to the hospital, instead insisting she follow formalities such as giving her full name and the spelling, despite her jaw being broken and her hardly being able to speak. Zaki insisted that the officer take her to the hospital, and he eventually complied. Soon afterward, the woman's father wrote both Zaki and his friend a letter of thanks for helping his daughter. The father offered a reward, which Zaki refused. I honestly have no idea why this wasn't the film. Especially for the time, it would address the awfulness of rape, with the underlying theme of police incompetence, and present the rescuers with an interesting conflict as to whether to take her to hospital or to the police first. In writing it this way, this could also allow for time to flesh out the personality and interests of the victim, as to not have her be reduced to being a rape victim. So, with all this said, do I believe the movie to be worth watching in any way, shape or form?
Absolutely.
When it's not Wait a minute.
Fucking absolutely. Absolutely fucking not.
When it's not gratuitously disturbing, I Spit on Your Grave is just dull to watch. I've never dedicated part of any of my videos to talking about a film with a rating of less than 2 out of 10. None of the DreamWorks or Disney films I watched for ranking videos were less than a 2 out of 10. I Spit on Your Grave has the dishonour of being the worst film that I've talked about on this channel to date, not counting brief mentions of films like Freddy Got Fingered or Movie 43, which are even worse than this film. As mentioned before, it would be a 0 out of 10, but Camille Keaton's performance gives it a single point. 1 out of 10. Do not recommend.